Earlier this week, I did a video about some under the radar prospects that people aren't really thinking about for the Browns in free agency, but I think should be talked about more. Well, we're going to use some of those under the radar guys to help fill out this roster before we do a mock draft. So for today's mock draft scenario, let's imagine that the Browns have made 3 major free agency moves that will really shape what they do in the draft. First thing they did, sign Elijah Vera Tucker to $12.8 million per year. He plays right and left guard. Romeo Doubs, brought him in at wide receiver at $15 million, and then signing center Cade Mays at about $12 million. So 3 starters, 1 at wide receiver, 1 at one of the guard positions, and 1 at center, already taken care of. All 3 of those guys are under 27 years old, so there's some longevity built in with them as well. So if we just look at those 3 moves and how that changes the Browns' current depth chart, it means that center is pretty taken care of. You got Cade Mays starting, and then you have Luke Whippler behind him. So you're pretty good at center. Guard, you still have a question mark of what's Joe Bitonio's situation going to be. Let's assume Joe Bitonio retires, so we can be prepared for worst case scenario. So Joe retires. So you have one of your guard positions. If you could choose, you probably put Elijah at right guard. So 1 guard position still wide open. Left tackle still wide open. Right tackle semi-open. DeJuan Jones is currently holding that spot, but it doesn't need to be DeJuan Jones if it doesn't have to be DeJuan Jones. And then wide receiver, you have your top 2 guys in Doubs and Jerry Jeudy. You probably want to add one more name to that rotation to complete it. All right, so with that in mind, let's draft for the Cleveland Browns. And so let's get into it. But before I do, got to thank my sponsor, Sleeper. Talk to you guys real quick about Sleeper, the app for daily fantasy, regular fantasy. And now, if you look at the pick section on the Sleeper app and go to the team section, you have predictions that you can now use on the Sleeper app. You can choose winners of games. So let's say you're a Cavs fan, the Cavs play the Wizards or something like that, and you think the Cavs are going to beat the Wizards. You can pick the Cavs to beat the Wizards in that kind of scenario. For me personally, I went with the Cavs getting the championship this year. And of course, I had to throw in the same for the Cleveland Browns winning the next Super Bowl. So if you want to join in the fun on that, make sure you join the Sleeper app. If you also want to use the Sleeper app for all the other things I mentioned, make sure you use the promo code Worst Take. Get a 100% match on up to $100 when you use the promo code Worst Take. Make sure you join the Sleeper app. All right, so going into this draft, we're looking at the board before the draft starts, and we know that Carnell Tate, Jordan Tyson, Mekhi Lemon, all players that we like here. I would say if we're ranking these 3 players for the Cleveland Browns, I think Jordan Tyson makes the most sense if you're okay with his injury, right? Like, that's the big question mark with him, is what is the deal with his medical? Is his medical a red flag, or is his medicals clean? Really got to get a good read on that for the long term, because this is the best talent for the Browns at the position, has the best yak ability, best combination of size, can go up and get the ball, amazing hand-eye coordination. He does all the stuff that Mekhi Lemon can do at a size that Mekhi Lemon can't produce, right? He's like 6'3", 210. Mekhi Lemon's not 6'3", 210. Carnell Tate's really good. He's a go up and get him kind of guy. He can get you a 50-50 ball. He can also get you some home run plays. The worry with Carnell Tate is that what his role is in the NFL offense is just kind of a home run hitter, or is he somebody who can consistently get you singles, doubles, triples when you need him to keep the chains moving? So that's the big question with Carnell. He wasn't really asked to do that at Ohio State, so we don't really know if he can do that. He's certainly talented enough. Also, athletically, out of these three, he's probably not a better athlete than Tyson or Lemon, in my opinion. I think he's probably the worst athlete of those three. Keep in mind that these are all three tremendous athletes. They all three have the ability to go up and get a 50-50 ball, grab a contested catch. Carnell Tate's, that's his specialty. Jordan Tyson can do that as well. Mekhi Lemon can do that as well. It's just you have more evidence of Jordan Tyson and Mekhi Lemon's ability to produce after the catch as well. So, yeah, I would go Tyson, then Tate, then Lemon here if we're ranking these wide receivers. Now, if you're the Browns, you might just value dependability, right? And Carnell Tate is going to be healthy. He doesn't have medicals on this thing. Mekhi Lemon has been productive consistently. So maybe that's something you value here. The other position of need here is tackle. I got to watch more Spencer Fano. I'm going to try to do that before the next mock draft here. But, Fano, Mal Noah, I don't really hear a lot of buzz on Caden Proctor to Cleveland, but you hear a lot about Lomu, Monroe Freeling. These are really the names that are going to occupy that first-round conversation at tackle that you think can play tackle. Proctor, again, his weight, it's been a big issue. Spencer Fano, I think a lot of people think is going to be more of a guard than a tackle. If we're really talking about guys that people think can play tackle at a high level in the NFL, we're talking about Mal Noah, Lomu, and Freeling. Freeling probably has the most upside and like that true left tackle potential, whereas like Mal Noah, kind of more of a guard, but the best player of everybody here, right? So those are like the two main positions of need for the Cleveland Browns. And if you want to tackle something with this 6 overall pick, you want it to be one of those two positions because there are players there worth those picks that you can look at. So we'll start this draft here. No surprises, Mount Noah. Carnell Tate goes 5th overall. Now we're getting some offers for pick 6. This is something that the Browns are likely to entertain here, right? So 6 to 13, you get an extra 2nd and an extra 5th back. This one gives you an extra 1st and 2nd next year. I would be interested to see if the Browns would turn something like this down because it's so unconventional because you're not getting a 1st-round pick back technically in this year, but you're getting like a 1st and a 2nd next year, which could be important if you're trying to get a quarterback. I imagine there are a lot of people who are big on that 2027 draft that would definitely do this Denver trade. I am partial to this Rams trade, but given that this is a mock draft and it's only giving me one pick here, I'm not going to do it for entertainment's sake, so I'm going to reject it. But I do think that would be an offer that the Browns would seriously consider here. Now, Ruben Bain being available at 6, I do think that you would realistically get calls from Dallas, maybe even Cincinnati. Who else would probably call up? Baltimore might want to call you, but again, in division, I don't know if the Browns are going to trade in division. Baltimore and Cincinnati would obviously both be in division. But with Bain sitting here, I think those 3 teams are going to be most likely to want to move up here, given that it's Cleveland making the selection and then Washington's right there who also needs an edge. They might be forced into trying to call Cleveland and seeing what they can get done. And that driving up the price for what they would give to the Cowboys. But the Cowboys' issue is that they don't really have anything other than first-round picks. They used all their first-round picks. They used all their second and third-round picks to get players this year. So we're looking at the board. Caleb Downs is there. Ruben Bain is there. Spencer Fano is there. Jeremiah Love, Jordan Tyson. I think the selection here would probably be Jordan Tyson. Mal Noah's off the board, right? Yeah, Mal Noah would be the only guy who would really compete here with the selection of Tyson. Maybe after the combine, we're talking about Monroe Freeling being in this spot in the competition for number 6 here too, as well. But yeah, I think if this is the scenario, you probably go with Tyson. And then you move on to your 24th pick in the draft, where you're going to want to watch the tackle situation. You want Lomu or Monroe here. Now, you have 3 trade offers for 24. This one's not really interesting, nor is this one. This one's not interesting either. With Monroe Freeling on the board here, this would be a pretty easy selection at 24 to go and get a left tackle prospect. Health is a big question with him. He wasn't healthy all of last year, but the upside for him is really obvious when you watch him on tape. So if we're looking at the draft so far, you got Jordan Tyson, you got Monroe Freeling, and you're feeling pretty good about your draft selections. Now, Max in the anchor, he's a really fun prospect. Saw him at the Senior Bowl. Jennings Dunker, I like him, but I think people are a little bit too high. I think he's more of a 3rd, 4th round guy, not really a 2nd round guy in my opinion. Brian Parker is a center prospect. I know they have him listed at tackle. He will not play anything other than center, maybe a little bit of guard in the NFL. I'm not a big fan of Isaiah World at all. I've just watched Oregon's tape so much this year. I was not impressed with him. Demetrius Crownover is somebody I thought was interesting at the Senior Bowl as well. Might be more of a guard, but let's look at the guards that are also available. So Paragon, again, I'm not impressed with most of Oregon guys, if I'm being honest. Chase Basantis is somebody who's interesting. Jake Slaughter, definitely at center, and then Keelan Rutledge. Now, again, we're looking at our board of what we've already taken care of. We have Jordan Tyson, so wide receiver is pretty much done, right? Romeo Doubs, Jordan Tyson, Jerry Jeudy. I mean, you can move one of those guys now if you really wanted to. With Isaiah Bond, that's a nice room. I'm pretty done with wide receiver. If we're looking at the offensive line, we got Cade Mays at center. At guard on the right side, we got Elijah Vera Tucker. At tackle, we got DeJuan Jones penciled in on the right side. On the left side at tackle, we got Monroe Freeling penciled in there. At the other guard position, we're open. So we could take a guard here. If we take a guard, I'm probably going to want to go Max in an anchor because I think there's some tackle potential there with him, but you can kick him inside the guard. I think that potential's there with Jennings Dunker too, but I think Max is a better prospect overall. So we could go with Max here. Wide receiver, we're pretty much done with. So, yeah, let's just get Max here. So we get Max, and we're pretty set at offensive line. We got a tackle guard prospect and Max and an anchor. We could get another guard there just for security later on in the draft. But now, we've tackled most of the needs. We're good at wide receiver. I feel like we're functional on offensive line. Now we're sitting at pick 70. And let's see what's available because safety's a position of need. A.J. Hulsey's a player I really like at the safety position. He's a true free safety, which I think this defense needs. If we're looking at corners, Keontae Scott's another interesting name. Another safety that's interesting, I think is more of a slot corner, is Bud Clark. Genesis Smith also available there as well. If we're still looking at offensive linemen, you got Jennings Dunker there. Who at this range I would be fine with taking. Interior offensive line, you got Keelan Rutledge there as well. If I did not draft all the guys that I've already drafted and signed, I would be interested in Keelan here. But now it's going to take until the 4th round for me to be interested in him just because of the way the board's shaking out. Kyle Lewis is up here, who I think is a good fit for what the Browns want to do at the linebacker position. You also got to factor in you got to replace JOK because it looks like he's going to have to retire sooner than later. Wide receiver, we've pretty much handled that. Tight end, you can get you a tight end. You might just sign like a Kohler in free agency and do Pat Ricard and just be fine there. So I think the pick's probably going to be Hulsey. Yeah, the pick's probably going to be Hulsey here. So let's get a safety. Let's get a free safety, and let's continue. We can peek at tight end. There are some names that are interesting there at tight end. Rutledge is also very interesting if he's there at 107, which I doubt he'll be there at 107. And then Kyle Lewis just went off the board to Pittsburgh. So we'll see here. So we're at 107. Ted Hurst is there, but we're pretty set at wide receiver. Rutledge is there. He might just be the pick if there's nothing to move me off of that. Let's see what corner has. Nothing's going to move me off here at corner. Yeah, no Bud Clark, which would have maybe moved me off of that. But yeah, if Rutledge is there, I'm going to take him. That's a really good pick there. So we got Rutledge. We got inner anchor. We'll give him the first year and let him compete at tackle. If he can't stick it there, we'll play him at one of the guard positions. And then we also have DeJuan Jones. And all of a sudden, I feel much better about my offensive line because I have that 6-man there in DeJuan, which is a good position to be in. So let's take him. And you can see this is a pretty offensive-heavy draft, right? 4 of the 5 picks on offense, 1 pick on defense. It's in the secondary. We're getting guys who have a lot of flexibility on that offensive line, a lot of talent there, physicality also at a premium as well. So we can say we're probably done now for the rest of the draft on offensive line. We've handled wide receiver. Those are our 2 biggest needs coming in. We can look at linebacker now. Depending on whether you keep Devin Bush, Harold Perkins is somebody you might want to be interested in. He's going to be more of a Sam Will guy. Tight end, Oscar Delp is sitting there. It's probably going to be the pick for me. Defensive line, we're good. Corner, we're good. Running back, I keep an eye on K-Tron. If K-Tron's there later on, then I might go K-Tron later. We're good here. Edge, Riger's there. If he's there in the 7th, I'm definitely going to take him. Cole Wisniewski, I think we're good here. So, yeah, we're going to turn this pick in for Oscar Delp and get a backup tight end. A lot of depth there. I mean, Sam Roush still there, 2 in the 5th, so you feel pretty good about that. We're sitting at pick 144. K-Tron's there. If he's there at 147, I'm going to just go ahead and make that move. Again, we could look at my selections here. Oscar Delp at 139. We're at 144, 147. Yeah, if K-Tron's there at 147, we're going to make that move. But since it's not a position of priority, we're going to see if there's anything else that's more important. Let's go linebacker. Aiden Fisher or Harold Perkins. Let's go Harold Perkins. And then let's go to running back. And let's grab K-Tron. All right, so we're headed to pick 205. I think this is where, if you're the Browns, you want to draft a specialist, you take that specialist. So we're going to take Ryan Eckley here at pick 205. I don't expect there to be much competition for him there, but just get punter out the way. Make sure you get the one you like. The Browns punting situation last year with Corey Bojorquez was, pretty poor. Bojorquez is not really great in short field situations. Really blew the Browns' field position a lot last year. I don't know if they want to go back to him, especially if they have to pay him. I would just rather draft a younger guy in there and get a new punter. So let's just get a new punter in there. Hopefully that one works out. And then let's see if Riger's there. If Riger's there at the end of this draft, we're going to go Mason Riger, and we're going to call it a day. Yep, we're going to get to pick, what are we, like 255? Well, we're just sitting back here. Okay, 249. Yeah, Riger's there. It's going to be a pretty easy selection to go Riger. And then we're going to end the day here. And I feel pretty good about these results here. Now this is the most realistic draft. that can happen? I don't know. You know what I mean? Like Monroe Freeling might end up being the 6th pick, and Jordan Tyson might end up being the 24th pick, right? Like it could switch up like that. Maxing the anchor, I feel really good about him at 39. AJ Halsey at 70, I would think is a steal. Keelan Rutledge at 107, I would think is a steal. Oscar Delp at 139, I would think is a steal. I like Harold Perkins at 144. Katron Allen at 147. That feels about right for him. Ryan Eckley, you get yourself a punter at 205, and then you take a flyer on a promising-looking edge in Mason Riger, who I thought was pretty impressive at East West Shrine. And then you end up with what is a pretty solid foundation for your offense, because what you did in free agency is that you gave yourself a wide receiver room of Jerry Jeudy, of Romeo Doubs. You added Jordan Tyson in the draft. So you have a top 3 that feels really good. You got Isaiah Bond to do stuff in between. You got Cedric Tillman still on the roster if you want to give opportunities there. And that's a core 5 that you feel pretty good about, right? If Cedric Tillman is your worst wide receiver, you're doing pretty okay wide receiver room-wise. Offensive line-wise, you signed Cade Mays in free agency, so you got your center position filled that way. You took a flyer on a young prospect in free agency in Elijah Vera Tucker, who's a good player when he plays, but not always the most healthy, right? So you spend money on Elijah Vera Tucker, and then you go into the draft and you give yourself some security blankets on, some of the bets that you made in free agency. So you go in and you draft yourself a Monroe Freeling, who you think could be a left tackle. You draft a Max and an anchor who you think can also play tackle, maybe guard. So if you do have injury issues with Elijah Vera Tucker, you can just slide him in to the guard position and then put Dewan at tackle. And then you get Kalen Rutledge, who I think can handle the left guard position, and that can really give you some flexibility for whether Joe Bitonio stays or not. So those 3 selections at the offensive line, I think, really secure your future. And then A.J. Halsey in that secondary on top of what the Browns already have. You can even keep Ronnie Hickman if you want to, and have Ronnie kind of focus on playing some more slot snaps, because the Browns still do need a slot corner. But getting a true free safety, somebody who can make plays on the ball, I think is going to be really big for that defense, especially now that they're focusing more on coverage with hiring a pass game coordinator to run the defense. And then you get Oscar Delp, who is a fantastic tight end prospect for pick 139, to add some variety to what you can do already with Harold Fannin Jr., and then you have Harold Perkins to help out with that Will Sam linebacker situation, Katron to give you added depth and security in that running back room, and given that running the ball is going to be really important for this team going forward, I would like to have as many bodies as possible as you feel good about. Roster 3 to 4 running backs is how I'm feeling about the position. You get yourself a punter, and then you take a flyer on the edge who could be pretty decent in Mason Riger. And you end up with a team that I feel like, if you get decent play out of the quarterback position, or just, average play out the quarterback position, you might be able to do something this year. And I think you're putting that quarterback in a good position to be successful, whoever they are, because you're giving them an offensive line, right? We're investing heavily in the offensive line. And then not only are you getting Romeo Doubs, you're also getting Jordan Tyson. That's going to probably make Jerry Jeudy better. And then you're getting Oscar Delp. You're getting just more things to help the passing game. And to help that be at a more proficient place, which I think will ultimately benefit whomever is the quarterback versus what happened last year. So you do all of that. I think you put yourself in a position, if you're the Browns, to be a 500 football team potentially, maybe even an over 500 football team. It really depends on what you get out the quarterback position. But, if this is how the draft had lined up for them, I would feel pretty good about what they were able to accomplish, especially in the first 107 picks, right? We're talking about Tyson, Monroe, Max, AJ, Keelan. I feel really good about that for our first 5 selections. But that's just my thoughts, and let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.